Does the next chapter of The Strangers keep the trilogy breathing, or is the franchise finally on its deathbed? Before we get to it, guys, spoiler alert, if you've not seen the movie, bookmark this video and come back to it. Otherwise, you've been forewarned. So I did not do a review of Strangers Chapter 1, so I'm going to kind of do a little mini review and then get into the second movie. So, I think overall, this whole trilogy, especially the first one and second one, is trying to recapture the magic of the OG films. Of course, more specifically, the original one. It just fails to deliver what I think fans are expecting of the franchise. It lacks the same disturbing impact and doesn't do enough to bring anything fresh or feel original to the table. What made the original Strangers so unsettling was the way it made viewers believe the couple situation could easily happen to them. It made it feel so real. You also felt for the couple more because they were together facing something that tested their relationship, which made it easier for the audience to connect with. By contrast, the new trilogy's couple, Maya and Ryan, doesn't really evoke the same emotional response from the audience. It's not a good thing. As far as the acting goes, while the killers and the townfolk deliver their roles effectively, our victim couple, Maya and Ryan, could have given so much more. I'm not sure if the writers intentionally wrote Maya's character this way, but they leaned way too heavily into her being so gullible and naive and trusting of others. It just became almost unbelievable that she would actually be that way. It just didn't seem realistic. This is especially clear when she interacts with the killers, most notably the scene with the man in the mask axing his way into the bedroom, and she and Ryan are just like not really reacting like you would expect them to. Their reaction should have been way more climactic than what we got. Instead, they just acted like passive viewers than people actually living through the horror. I'm like, the audience was more worried for them than they were for themselves. That's not good. Okay, I do want to point out for Ryan specifically, he was just so frustrating to watch. I don't know, maybe if y'all felt the same way. His performance felt like he was trying to play the supportive millennial boyfriend while also slipping into being occasionally douchey, which didn't really make sense to me. His chase and high-intensity scenes weren't believable, and he never really conveyed a real sense of urgency or did enough to come across as Maya's hero. That's just my opinion, though. So I didn't really care for him at all. Glad he's gone. Okay, let's talk about the chase. The first movie felt overly long and drawn out. I know you probably felt the same way, without really enough happening to justify all that wasted time. There were a few interesting sequences, like the crawl space scene, but it overall could have been way shorter. Instead of stretching it into 3 parts, they should have just condensed it, I think, maybe into 2 parts, or at least given us more of the killers' backstories earlier on, like in the first film, rather than waiting until the second chapter to start revealing them. Like, we don't need to keep seeing, prequel sequences of them killing other people and then coming to the couple again. Like, we don't need to do that. We get it. They kill people. We got it. So let's, focus on them more, like how they became them. All right. So now that's my little mini review. So let's get into the second movie now. So again, let's talk about Maya. I was surprised by Maya's sudden transformation into a full-fledged horror movie heroine compared to how she was in the first film. I understand that she went through something very traumatic, but the shift just felt like night and day. The writer seemed to kind of fast forward her evolution from a trusting, naive victim into a hardened survivor, with the only justification being that she was terrorized and lost her fiance. Maybe I'm, totally underselling that, but I feel like that's what we got. Suddenly she inherits survival skills out of nowhere, stitching her own wounds, starting a fire in the woods, even leaping from a moving vehicle to escape danger. Don't get me wrong, I'm proud of her resilience, but it just doesn't feel believable. Again, let's talk about the chase, because we go back to the duration. The chase sequences were definitely improved the second time around, but the movie still feels overly long, and honestly, Maya probably would have lapped me in a step competition on my Apple Watch. I mean, the poor girl ran and walked a lot in this movie, just like she did in the first one. I'm like, this girl is being put through the ropes, of course, for her life, but still, it's just a little bit overdone. I did enjoy the hospital sequence, though I didn't buy that the basement area matched the size of the hospital we saw from the outside, like above ground. It seemed like it was way bigger than the hospital was. The morgue scene where Maya hides alongside Ryan's body to evade the man in the mask in the morgue was another highlight, I thought. Some of the best acting from Ryan's actor, by the way. as a dead body. I also like the sequence where Maya ends up back at the house where she was originally terrorized. You could really feel the weight of her emotions as she was forced to return and relive the trauma, you know, as she's trying to hide away from the killers. The wildest and most unexpected part of the movie was the wild boar scene. I'd say it's one of the highlights as well, and it actually isn't too far-fetched given the killer's location. I've never encountered one myself, but living in an area where wild boars exist, I can imagine just how dangerous they can actually be. So, let's talk about some of the other characters. The locals. The movie tries to include other locals as a misdirect, leaving you to guess who the killers might be. These are the people that pick her up off the road. And while these characters act awkwardly enough to raise suspicion, it's really not that hard to figure out who the killers probably are at this point. I actually found it funny when the taller of the girls who picked up Maya in the rain mentioned that she'd been in the military for all of 3 years or something like that, as if that was enough to reassure Maya that she would protect her if any danger came her way, which she was not able to do. I think the best characters at throwing you off and keeping you guessing are the sheriff, Rudy, the mechanic, and Carol at the diner. Rudy feels like a sure bet to be involved, though it's unclear whether he's the man in the mask or if that's the role that belongs to Gregory. That's the guy with the circle tattoo, who in my opinion might be related to Rudy somehow. Carol, being her nosy self, clearly has a part to play as well, though I don't see her as one of the killers. More likely maybe she's connected to them in some other way, possibly related or something like that. The sheriff practically has corruption stamped on his forehead, but there's still a slim chance, very, very slim, that he could be a good guy. The scene where he and his partner are patrolling the trailer park and spot the killer's red Ford, only for him not to mention it, was to me a dead giveaway that he can't be trusted. Maybe it's a misdirect, but I doubt it. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if his partner ends up murdered in the third entry. Just saying. I did want to give a shout out to a character you're probably not expecting, Maya's cell phone. Yeah. I don't think it gets enough credit in how it's acting in this movie. That thing has disappeared and reappeared, been roughed up and taken damage, but always manages to make an appearance when Maya needs it. What the heck? It reminds me of the scene in Pretty Little Liars where one of the characters is talking on the phone upside down. It's just not believable. There's no way your phone would always be around. Your phone, I mean, it's just crazy. The nurse gives it to her. She gets it back. It's just, I'm like, girl, there's no way your phone is always like that. It's not possible. But yeah, kudos to Maya's cell phone for always having a spot. We'll see if it comes up in the third one. We'll see if it's in every single movie. We'll see if that happens. All right. So what I feel like Chapter 2 is trying to be. Obviously, if you're a fan of horror movies or watched various horror movies, the first thing that comes to mind is going to be Halloween 2. This is the original Halloween, not the new trilogy. Horror movie heroes and heroines waking in a hospital after a night of terror isn't anything new to the genre, but when you watch this movie, it's clear that they're, obviously modeling Maya after Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode in Halloween 2. To be honest, that film handled the hospital chase scene much better. I get that The Strangers isn't particularly set in a hospital, but even so, Halloween 2 still did a stronger job with that setting. Obviously, other vibes that I get from this is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The sheriff definitely gives off some of the same vibes as the sheriff in that film and franchise, but the sheriff in that franchise is the patriarch of the family that terrorizes the victims, always presenting a trustworthy front while being deeply corrupted underneath. Also, I would say that, given the setting that this movie is trying to portray, it reminds me of a lot of movies set in Appalachia. So that would be like movies like The Descent, Wrong Turn. There's probably some other ones I'm not remembering, but those are the main ones that come to mind. This is set in a small town in Oregon, Venus, Oregon. Clearly takes inspiration from the other settings of the other movies. You might be thinking, well, Justin, what about Forks, Washington in the Twilight series, which is also a woodsy small town with a creepy vibe. The difference, I think, being that Twilight doesn't rely as heavily on the small town locals and their relationship to the locale to create its tension and horror effect like the other ones. So that's what I'm going to say about that. So I want to talk about audience reactions and my theater experience. So I saw the movie on a Saturday and the theater was half empty. Again, nothing going on, so there was no reason for the theater to be empty. Everyone was at the movies. They just weren't watching this movie. The scene where Maya stabs Dollface in the ambulance sparked an eruption of cheers from my audience. It was one of the few moments that truly energized the audience, because up till then they were not happy with what Maya had been doing throughout the movie and is kind of getting kind of bored. Now, however, when the credits rolled and To Be Continued appeared on the screen, the mood quickly shifted. The audience seemed frustrated and annoyed that there would be another installment, especially given how the second movie played out. I don't know if people really know it's a trilogy, and that's probably why they had that reaction, but yeah, a lot of people were like, oh man, really? Come on. Critics and audiences alike haven't been kind to this entry as well, just like the first one, though there is some hope that the third and final installment could deliver more, but expectations should remain slim. As I mentioned earlier, this reboot or retelling might have worked better as a two-part story rather than a trilogy. It feels like they tried to emulate the Halloween's reboot 3-movie formula, but that franchise has a deeper history and the battle between Michael Myers and Laurie Strode has been built over time. In contrast, the Strangers trilogy focused on a couple being terrorized, which doesn't have the same narrative buildup, and fans aren't as connected to those characters. Not in that way where the stories that, pulled out. I mean, I think a lot of us would rather just have a sequel to the first one. She survived, right? So, bring back Liv Tyler or recast her or something, or, have something happen where we still continue the story maybe after even the second one. They're just something within the same timeline and universe. That's what we kind of think want. So, here's my final thoughts and review for The Strangers Chapter 2. While The Strangers Chapter 2 tries to keep us engaged long enough to remember that there's still a third installment, it falls flat at every turn, failing to recapture the magic of the original while attempting something new, leaving you wishing the only victim of the killers had been the movie itself. And with that, I give The Strangers Chapter 2 2.5 out of 5. Whatever I decide to put when I edit. So one of the killer's faces probably Dollface or whatever her name is. So, that's my review of The Strangers Chapter 2. If you've seen it, I'd love to hear comments down below if you agree with some of the things I pointed out. I am doing a challenge of 31 Days of Halloween where I'm trying to challenge myself, again, hoping not jinxing it, that I will put out a video about a horror movie review for every 31 days of October leading up to Halloween. So by all means, please subscribe to the channel, like this video if you enjoyed it, watch other videos on the channel, and I will see you guys next time on The Mashup.